Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to a tutorial on setting up projectiles with the basic locomotion system by NativeCoder. This is a blank BLS project. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's open up our content drawer. So then content, BLS, inventory, and it doesn't matter where you do this, but I'm going to set it up here next to BP gun, pistol, and rifle. Let's make a new blueprint class of type actor. Let's name this BP projectile and open it up. So here we need to add a sphere collision, and let's just drag this up and make this the default scene root. We're going to add a static mesh, and this will be set to whatever bullet mesh or whatever you're shooting from your weapons. This is where you would set that up. For the video, we're just going to set this up to a sphere, and we're going to bring down the scale to 0.05. Let's give it a red material, and let's go back up to the sphere, and let's make this sphere radius 16. Basically, you want your static mesh inside of your sphere. We need to add the projectile movement component. In here, we need to set up the initial speed and max speed. I think in my actual project, I'm set up at 10,000, 12,000, somewhere in there. So it's going to be moving pretty fast. But for the video, we're going to go 4,000, 4,000. Projectile gravity scale. Basically, the higher the gravity, the more the bullet drop. So for the video, 0.5. Okay, and that's all we really need to do with this. We can compile, save, and we can just leave it open. That's fine. And let's go to BP gun. So in here, in the event graph, in the fire animation effects, we can delete everything after we do this. We spawn the sound at the muzzle and spawn the muzzle flash. So everything right here. We're going to do this a little bit differently because we're going to be spawning a projectile that's going to be handling the applied damage and physics and things like that. So let's go into the trace camera function. Basically, we can delete all of this and the reroute nodes. We can delete this one. Click on the return node, and we just need to pass a vector. And I'm going to call this look at value. Okay. And from the impact point here, we want to say select vector. Okay, and that will be point A. Point B will be the trace end, which is set up by your range. Okay, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a while. And the value will be that. So basically, if it hits something, it's going to pick A. If it doesn't hit anything, it's going to pick B. And we're going to pass that, oops. We're going to pass that vector over here. Okay. And we can make a new function. Let's call this shoot at what did I call that? Yeah, shoot at transform. Okay. So going back a little bit, I think I got ahead of myself a little bit. So here basically, no, I think I did explain that. Okay. So now we need to call the trace camera function. And so here we go. In range here, basically I'm not using the variable anymore. And that's because this value should pretty much stay the same, in my opinion. Basically, now the projectiles will be able to handle your range. So like I said, the more gravity or bullet drop that you have in your projectile is going to, equal, how far it can go, and also like the speed of it and stuff like that, plus the gravity. So I'm just keeping this range at, I think 10,000 or 5,000 is fine. Now we need to get the muzzle socket. Okay. And while I'm on this, let's go over this. Let's go to system. Let's go to the inventory data table and let's click on rifle. And basically we just want to go to the skeletal mesh of whatever you're using. And out of the box in BLS, the tip muzzle is being used for the muzzle socket here. And right now you can see that it's actually like right at the tip of the barrel. And we don't want that to collide with our projectile that we're using. So we're just going to slide this out just a little bit. And you know, your projectile should be moving fast. You have the muzzle flash. You're not going to really notice the difference between the projectile spawning here or here. Okay. So we're just going to save that, close it, close that. And now we can say get socket location, and that's going to be of type skeletal mesh. Like so. Here we want to say find look at rotation. The start will be the socket location. The target will be the look at value. And here is where you would add some bullet spread if you're interested in that. You can split this pin struct and basically turn it back into a rotator. And you would say add, and you would say random float in range. Okay. And then you would, you know, like promote these to two variables here. So you would have like a bullet spread minimum value and a bullet spread maximum value, which can be specified per weapon that you're using. So you would just copy this, paste it, and pitch would go to pitch, yaw would go to yaw. But we won't set that up. And so here we'll just go reroute node, and we need to make a transform for our, so when we spawn the projectile, it knows where to spawn. Okay. So yeah, location of the socket will be the location, the rotation will be rotation, the scale will be 1. And now we just need to get a return node and pass that transform. And we'll just call this shoot at transform. Okay. So we can close these functions. We shouldn't need them anymore. Now here back at our fire event, which is a multicast event, going to a server event. So we'll just say, we just need to call our shoot at transform that we made, and we need to say spawn actor from class. Transform will go to the transform. The class, we will promote that to a variable and call it projectile class. This way, if you have a handgun, grenade launcher, or rifle, they can all spawn a different projectile. Collision handling, we'll say always spawn, ignore collisions. The owner will be self. Oops. And the instigator will be character. Okay. And now we should be spawning projectiles. I forgot to do one thing. So because we made that, promoted that variable to the class variable to the projectile class, we just need to set it now in our projectile, or in our BP rifle. So let's go in here, find projectile class right here, and we need to set it up to BP projectile or whatever you named your projectile. Now it should work. Everything seems to be working right. The only thing is it's a little bit hard to tell because we can't see what's happening behind the wall, but it's shooting right through the wall. So we're halfway there. So let's go back to our BP projectile and let's set up these collisions, okay? So in sphere, we need to go down and find the collision settings, collision presets. We're gonna set this to custom. Collision enable is going to be query only, no physics collision. Object type is going to be world static. We're going to ignore the trace responses of visibility and camera. And we're going to block everything except world dynamic. And that should be it. Okay, then we need to go to our static mesh. Same thing, find the collision presets, and we'll just say no collision. Sweet. So I know that looks weird, but basically what's happening is that when they hit something, they stop. And that's why you see that they kind of like stack on top of each other. Because there's no code actually telling it to do anything. So it's just staying alive forever. So this is looking right. This is looking good. So stay tuned for part 2 of this series, where we will actually, in our projectile class, we will set up the event hit and start doing things when the projectile actually hits something, like spawn a decal, spawn a Niagara effect, spawn a sound, apply damage, apply physics, all those things. Thank you.